kingdom in us, and we possess his favor. This favor, we didn't earn it. You know what I mean? We didn't earn it. That's like, that alone makes us feel blessed. We didn't earn it. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are those who grieve, who have sorrow, who are sad. It's like, huh? You know, how can you have this feeling of being blessed when you are in that moment of grieving, when you are in that moment of sorrow and sadness? And we can experience this through many different situations. We can experience it through loss of loved ones. We can experience it through loss of just separation of friends, or just tragedies that go on all the time. You know, we always, there's always a sorrow to experience in this world. And it's a lot of things, it's things we can't control. But the blessing in this, it says, for they shall be comforted. The blessing is that you are going to feel comforted by God. That's the blessing. He's here to encourage us. He's here to ease the grief or the disappointment. See, the amazing thing about God is he gives us time to heal. He gives us time to process what's going on. He gives us the time to even mourn. He gives us that time. But in it, it doesn't mean that our whole world has to fall apart. As a matter of fact, while you're in the process, as you're feeling his comfort, you have his peace. You have his peace. You know, it's like I've lost a lot of family members, but when it's the people closest to you, it's different, you know? I saw my brother losing his life to cancer. I saw my brother who was murdered. Neither one is easy. You know, neither one is easy. But yet, because it's like I had people praying for my family because I was there, I was praying, you felt the peace of God over the whole situation. You felt the peace of God. You know, in spite of my mom, of course, being so broken, she would tell me, I don't know what's going on with me. I have a peace. That was God. She was able to be comforted in the hardest of moments. How many parents, when they lose a child, literally lose their mind? They never recover. But I have seen the hand of God touch my mom. And I'm beyond grateful for that. And seeing that brings comfort to my heart. I don't want to see my mom suffer in that sense. But God has comforted me in my struggles. I have lost friendships. I have lost family. I have had disappointments. I have had a lot of tragedy in my life. Things that have happened to me that, you know, it took a long time to heal from. But in all those situations, I know God was there walking alongside of me in my disappointments, in my heartaches, in my grief. In 2 Corinthians chapter 1, I'm going to read verse 3 and 4. It says, Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. See, when we struggle, when we have a disappointment, when we have sorrow, when we have a grief, it's not in vain. This is the amazing thing about the experience we have. Because we see a lot of people go through stuff and they never, ever recover. They can never get past those tragedies. They can never get past the grief. But the thing is if we have this relationship with God, He comforts us. So in return, we can also give comfort to somebody else. It's not in vain. Your pain is not in vain. If you allow God to bring you through this, if you allow God to comfort you, then when you are comforted, you can turn around and tell somebody else of how good God is, how his comfort can surround you, how his comfort can take you through it until it's over. We can turn around and tell them. Now, if we start telling somebody about comfort when we ourselves don't allow ourselves to get comforted, believe me, it'll show. As soon as they start asking you questions, you'll be like, You know what I mean? Oh, well, how did God comfort you? Hold on, I'll be back. You know what I mean? Let me go ask somebody else how they got comforted, and then let me go relate that message. No, get your own comfort. Get your own experience. There's been times where I've been so desperate for his comfort. I would stay up all night and telling God, I'm not moving until I feel you. I'm not leaving until you just come and just minister to me, because I need it that desperately. And I can literally feel him wrap himself around me. And that's all I needed. That's all I needed. I felt him wrap himself around me and almost like cradle me. That was enough to get me through until the next time. Until the next time. Until the next time. The thing is, do we get desperate enough to seek the comfort of God? Or do we go and seek comfort from everything else first before we seek his comfort and still be left feeling empty? They gave you a good little comforting word and a good little encouragement, but it doesn't penetrate. It's like on the surface. We need something deep. See, and our God, our Father, is a God of mercies. That means he is the Father of compassion. He has compassion on our suffering. Do we realize that he truly cares independently for each and every one of us? The thing is, there's sin in the world, and because there's sin in the world, we're going to struggle and we're going to experience ugly things. Now, if there wasn't sin in the world, we wouldn't experience this. So how they say, how could God be good if he allows you to go through this? If he allows you to experience these things? The thing is he didn't make that choice. He didn't tell those people to go do you wrong. As a matter of fact, his word tells us to be the complete opposite. But it's our freedom of choice. It's our choice of how we're going to be. But when we do experience the ugliness of the world, he has compassion on us. He sees you. He doesn't see just, oh, it's my people. So he doesn't see it just as a group and be like, oh, okay, I got to tend to the people. Not only does he tend to the people as a whole, my God sees you in the crowd. My God sees you broken when you're putting on a smile. My God sees your pain when you're telling everybody you're okay. My God sees you because he is the God of compassion. He is the God who sees suffering. He is the God who consoles us. He is the God who encourages us, because his purpose for us is to strengthen us, to strengthen you through it, strengthen you through your trial, strengthen you through your loss, strengthen you through your sorrow, get you back to that place where he's your satisfaction and you're no longer sad, but you have joy now. Now you're feeling blessed because you're possessing his favor. You're coming back to him, remembering that he is what you need. He's establishing your faith in it all. In it all. Anything you go through, big or small, he's there. He's there. He's willing. Nothing is too small and nothing is too big for him. See, a lot of times, we get in this state where we're like, oh, well, we don't want to bother nobody. You know what I mean? We don't want to bother, We look at God and we're just like, well, God, you know. So if you want to do something, you'll do it. But the thing is, when you come to him and share your heart with him, that's the intimacy. That's the intimacy. When you have that type of intimacy with somebody, you want to do everything for them. You want to bless them above and beyond. You want to help them more. Versus the people that are like, nah, we're cool. You're like, okay, fine. You know? It's like, you have, we have those people around us. The ones that are more open, the ones that are more ready to just be there and receive and just have a relationship with you. You're more open to them. You want to just be there with them and help them in any way you can. But those people that are always resisting you, you're just like, well, hey, okay, well, I tried. You know? And the thing is God tries, but he's a gentleman. He's not going to force his way into your life. He's not going to force you to do these things. He's not even going to force you to believe. It's a choice. It's a choice. So my God consoles us and encourages us. He strengthens us in all our troubles. Why? Because in turn, we can help somebody else. Somebody who's barely experiencing that and we're over that experience. Somebody who is learning about Christ and we've come to an understanding of Christ. Those are the people that we are supposed to be helping. We're not supposed to be helping the ones where we're like in the same level. You know what I mean? We're not. Because we're both learning the same thing. Like I always tell my kids, if you go to your friends for counsel or advice, they're going to give you the same dumb advice you have. Because they're in the same state of mind as you. You haven't got past it. You don't know any better. You haven't, lived past that. So you and them have the same exact idea. Because you're both in the same boat. But talk to somebody who's already been through it. Talk to somebody who's already past that. They can tell you all the do's and don'ts. I did this, or don't do that. It's like they can tell you through experience what worked and what didn't work. And this is why God comforts us. Because we learn what his comfort feels like. We learn what it does to us. It satisfies. So we also want to be able to satisfy somebody else. Not in us, but give them that satisfaction of having a taste of God. In verse 5, Matthew 5, verse 5, it says, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the gentle. Blessed are the humble. Blessed are the patient, self-control. This means that you have a patience and a tolerance. You are self-controlled. And it means that it's an inward attitude. So it's not something you display just on the outside. It starts from the inside. And it goes from the inside out. It means that we're able to accept God's dealing with us as good. And we don't dispute or resist him. Okay, maybe some of us need to learn meekness. Because some of us still like to dispute with God. Some of us still like to fight with God. But see, when we have meekness, we see whatever God chooses for our life, and we say, Lord, your will, not mine. And we humble ourselves before that. We submit to his will in it. We say, Lord, have your way. I don't want to have my way. We say, God, you be exalted and I be humbled. That's what we're saying. But meekness also is the ability to demonstrate gentleness, not in weakness, but in power. This caught me right here. You're able to demonstrate gentleness, not in weakness, but in power. See, gentleness doesn't mean that you just let everybody run you over. You just roll over for anything and everything. And you yourself are abused and you yourself are taken advantage of. That's not what that is. Let's look at Christ. because he was the ultimate example of meekness. He says, for take my yoke upon you, for I am meek. I am lowly at heart. I am humble. He demonstrated the most gentleness on his way to the cross. On his way to the cross. See, he was patient under his suffering. He tolerated the mocking. He tolerated the abuse. He tolerated it. All with the attitude is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And when Pilate said, I have the power to release you or not, he said, my Father has given you that authority. He said, and if I chose to, I can send legions of angels. But I choose to lay my life down. See, that's gentleness in power. Because he's showing self-restraint. When he easily could have just killed off everybody. He easily could have done whatever he wanted to. He could have demonstrated his power like in the Old Testament. You know what I'm saying? He could have done that. He could have opened up the ground and swallowed them all up. He could have brought the plagues. He could have brought all kinds of stuff. But instead, he chose to let them do what they did to him. All the way to the cross. All the way till his last breath. And he showed gentleness. He showed humility. He showed that he had a restraint. And the thing is even though we might have the right reasons to be angry with people, this ability gives us, this meekness gives us the ability within our heart not to react. It gives us the ability to still show them kindness, to still show them gentleness instead of our anger, instead of our frustration, instead of our annoyance. Meekness gives us the ability to show them God's love. Why? Because you're allowing His Spirit to work on your character. His Spirit is giving us character. It's giving us strength of character when we're able to just stand there and take it and not react. Not go to their level. Not to make it go up a notch. But to humble ourselves and say, you know what? Whatever. I don't have to be right. I don't have to be right. I'm just going to walk away from this. Or I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to restrain myself. And I'm just going to take it to God. I'm going to let my heart be worked on. I'm going to allow my heart to show kindness, to show goodness. And it doesn't mean like in the middle of it, I'm like, oh, you're so sweet. Oh, I love you. Like, no, that's not what kindness is. That's not what that means. It simply means that you're going to do them right and not wrong. You choose to restrain yourself. See, this has everything to do with you. This has everything to do with what's inside of your heart. Because people can be like, you know, when people treat them good, they're good. I mean, they're awesome people. But the moment you cross them, they're like a whole different person. And you're like, okay, what happened to like the good person? See, when you have a good heart, it comes in and out in the anger and in the joy. You have a good heart, whether they're treating you good or whether they're mistreating you. That's where the meekness comes out. That's where it shows that this is something from the inside out. It's an inward attitude. It's one of the fruits of the Spirit. So this isn't like, oh, you know, some people can have it and some people can't. I mean, I wish we could use that excuse. But in reality, it's one of the fruits of the Spirit. So if we have the Spirit of God working inside of us, meekness is going to be getting worked in our lives. Some of us are more meek than others. you know. Some of us can demonstrate it a lot better than some of us. But as time goes on, meekness should be becoming part of us. It should be becoming part of our heart, part of our character. It should be becoming part of what's deep inside of our hearts. And then it says, "If blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." That's talking about heaven. That's not necessarily talking about here. It's talking about if we do this, if we have this type of heart attitude, we will obtain and receive admission to heaven. That's what it's talking about. That we're going to have all of its privileges. But it also says that we will be friends of God. Remember what friends of God is? Friends of God means that we agree with his doings. We don't say, God, it's what I want, so you got to do what I want. I'll be your friend only if you do what I want. No, being his friend is, I'm going to do what you want. I'm going to go where you go. I'm going to do what you do. And so as I'm thinking about this, because sometimes it seems so way out there, you know, especially when now these days, everybody's just so ugly. Lord have mercy. People are going crazier and crazier. You see a pedestrian and people are going around them like if they're not even there. And if they hit them, they're not going to stop. A lot of them are just doing hit and runs. You know, out in the store, everybody's out for themselves. When everybody's in tragedy, they're like, wait, I got to take care of me first. Right? So we're living in a world where meekness is not really there anymore. There is no sense of kindness anymore. Nobody looks out for anybody else except themselves. But I want to go to Numbers, because there's a man who demonstrated this type of meekness. And I'm going to be Numbers chapter 12. And I'm just like, you know, God blows my mind. When you have an amazing relationship with God, you have to understand God will do anything for his children. So Numbers chapter 12, it says, "Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not, So they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than all the men who were on the face of the earth." Imagine this. On the whole face of the earth, he was the most humble. That means meek. Meek. Moses was a meek man. He was humble. He always put others in more importance than himself. And so the Lord heard it. The Lord heard what his brother and sister were saying. Suddenly the Lord said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, "Come out, you three, to the tabernacle of meeting." So the three came out. Then the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam. And they both went forward. Then he said, "Hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. I speak with him face to face, even plainly, and not in dark sayings. And he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" Jeez. Imagine this. Imagine if God did this the moment we spoke against somebody. Would we do it? Probably not. God straight called them out in front of the assembly, pulled them forward. "Why have you spoken against my servant? Why have you spoken against the one I trust with my house? You have spoken against my servant. And this has been done. Me and Pastor were in a church where all these people would talk about us, and it was a very lonely place. It was a lonely place. It sucked going to church every service, feeling the darts. It sucked. I mean, it's no joke. But yet, here we go. I don't know, we were dumb or something. We just kept showing up. But God sent people to that church, pulled me and him in front of everybody, and said, there is people in this ministry who are spreading lies, who are talking against you guys. But God sees you. God knows you. That was so comforting to me. I'm sure to him. Because God, in that moment, vindicated us. Did people learn? No, they didn't. But you know what? I knew God saw me. That gave me the strength to keep going. That gave me the strength, like, God, as long as you see this, it don't matter what they think. It don't matter what they're about, because you're going to deal with them one way or another. And we've been delivered. Praise the Lord. We walked out, our day came. And then it goes on. So the anger of the Lord was aroused against them, and he departed. And when the cloud departed from above the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam, and there she was, a leper. So Aaron said to Moses, "O my Lord, please do not lay this sin on us, in which we have done foolishly, and in which we have sinned. Please do not let her be as one dead, whose flesh is half consumed when he comes out of his mother's womb." So Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, "Please heal her, O God, I pray." Would we be able to do this? Would we have this kind of heart when we know our brother and sister or whoever it is coming against us? It's in our face. It's not, oh, I think they're talking about me. No, it's they are talking about me. This was his brother and sister. They came against him. They got all prideful. We hear God too. We don't need him. And yet, Moses' heart, he had the right to be upset. Don't we get hurt? Don't we get upset when we know people are talking about us? I've been there. I've had to humble myself time and time and time and time and time again. I mean, sometimes maybe I gave them something to talk about. But other times I didn't. It was just doing what I do. But in his heart, he didn't want to see them go down like that. In his heart, he had love for them. Not just because it was his brother and sister. If it was somebody else, I'm sure he would have cried out to God too. Let's look at Pharaoh. When it came to Pharaoh, he went and prayed for Pharaoh too. So he didn't hold it against them. Instead, he asked for mercy. Do we ask for mercy for those who are against us? Can we ask for mercy to those people that, we don't think are right? Can we ask for mercy? Can we have this type of gentleness? Can we have this type of humility? And not just when people are looking. You know what I mean? Humility is easy when people are looking. We can pretend to be humble. You know what I mean? But true humility, God sees. God sees. We can't hide that from God. We can't. We can't pretend with God. He sees everything. So it's like, Lord, give us this type of heart. Give us the type of heart like Moses, where others were more important than himself. Because honestly, how are we going to win the world to Christ if the world is winning us over? If we're acting like the world, if we're just as hateful, if we're just as mean, if we're just as rude, if we're just as vindictive, how are we going to win people over to Christ? We need to win the world over to Christ through His love, through His gentleness, through being humble, to lowering ourselves. God, it's about you and not me. God, it's about glorifying you and not myself. God, they're mistreating me, but Lord, it's still not about me. It's still not about me. God, you have your way. If I'm in the wrong, show me. But Lord, if they're in the wrong, show them. Get a hold of them. Why? Because it's one more person over to Christ. It's one more person that's able to go and win somebody else over. Because now their heart's being changed. Now their heart's full of humility. Now their heart is understanding God's love and how it can win somebody over. I didn't get won over to Christ through harshness. As a matter of fact, it's like, that fight or flight. When I feel cornered, I fight. So if somebody's coming in being harsh to me, that's not going to bring any kind of gentleness. You know what I mean? And that's not going to win me over. It's going to cause me to resist. But if they're coming in and they're just being patient with me, and they're just being there and just keep showing me God's love and showing me God's kindness, it's like, like, wait a minute, what's this? I don't understand this. I don't know how that works. It's like, well, it's God. God changed me. God can change you if you want it. And then all of a sudden, that starts to soften their hardened heart. See, God's meekness softens hardened hearts. I had a hard heart, and God has softened me through all these different areas. Learning gentleness, learning humility. There can't be pride and humility at the same time. We choose one or the other. Miriam and Aaron chose pride in this moment, so then they got humbled. Moses chose humility, and then he got exalted. That's how God works. God works the complete opposite of this world. So we must be going along God's order, God's path, because God's path is against the grain. God's path goes against the world. And like I was having a conversation with somebody not that long ago, and I was like, we're in a time and place where the real Christians have lost their voice. The real Christians have begun to hide. And the only ones that are standing out are the fake ones. The only ones that are standing out are the ones that are misrepresenting our God. And we're sitting back and we're just like, how dare they? But is our life showing something different? Are we standing up? Are we giving a voice to God? And I'm not talking about necessarily just words. I'm talking about our actions. I'm talking about the inward attitude. Are we showing who Christ is to the world? Or are we just going to be pushed aside and be shut up and Christ never gets to shine? See, Christ shined through the apostles. Christ shines through those people who believe, through those people who are willing to be worked with, through those people who are willing to let Him be the mold, to mold us. Why? Because people are always going to see when we're actually going through it, who we really are. It doesn't matter our mistakes. It's not about our mistakes when we're going through it. That's not what it is. But when we're going through it and we're all tore up and we're all beat up and we're just like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, and we're kind of like on our last leg. But all the while, they're seeing our heart be transformed because our desire for God is going greater and greater and greater. It doesn't matter what it takes, God. I want you. It doesn't matter. I want a relationship with you. So even if this is going to take me out, Lord, I want you. And I pray for those that are coming against me. And I pray for those that are not with me. And I pray for those that, they don't understand. And when they're seeing us in our distress, are we turning to God? And then they see that joy coming up. They see that peace coming up. And they're like, nah, they're the real thing. That's a person who knows the one true God. Not the ones who speak about God but live a completely different life and misrepresenting God. And it goes on, it says, so Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, please heal her, O God, I pray. Then the Lord said to Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, would she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out of the camp 7 days, and afterwards she may be received again. So it's talking about the spitting in the face. That's talking about when a father would openly rebuke the daughter. She would have to go out of the camp. And so then he says, like, I openly rebuked her. Pretty much, I spit in her face. I openly rebuked her. So she needs to go outside of the camp. So Miriam was shut out of the camp 7 days, and the people did not journey till Miriam was brought in again. And afterward, the people moved from Hazeroth and camped in the wilderness of Paran. Because Moses had prayed for her, God did have mercy. Although she still had to go through the process, God did hear him. Moses is also the same one because of their relationship was so close. He got to see God. He got to see the back of God. Imagine being so close to God that he shows himself to you. I want that. I want that. It's like Moses got closer and closer and closer and closer to God, to the point where God was not going to put up with anybody talking about him. And the thing is, if you draw closer and closer and closer to God, he too will defend you. He too will stand up for you. He too will give you all the comfort, all the encouragement, and all the benefits that come with having him in your life. There's so many benefits to our relationship with God. But a lot of times, if we don't know our benefits, we're not going to use them, right? We all have some kind of insurance, right? We have insurance on our car, insurance on the house, blah, blah, blah. But some of us, we know we have insurance. We just don't know what exactly our insurance, does. Except for those people who like to read. They're like, oh, no, I'm going to know everything. So when I need it, I know what I'm calling on, right? Those are the people you're like, hey, can you read this? I know a couple people in this place that are like that. We're like, hey, can you mind reading this? You need to, let me know what my benefits are, right? And that's the thing. This is our insurance. It's our insurance. If you don't read it, you don't know your benefits. You don't know the benefits that come along with him. Having him in your life. It's like, you have those people that are very like meek and gentle and lowly, right? They're not feisty in any way, shape, or form. And you tell them like, man, you need a feisty friend, because people are not going to mess with you because you have a feisty friend, right? So you have that benefit of having that friendship. See, my God is everything. You need a defender, he's your defender. You need healing, he's your healer. You need strength, he gives you strength. You need faith, he causes you to grow in faith. My God has so many benefits to the relationship. I can tell you, almost 23 years later, I'm still discovering. And I am in awe more and more and more of who he is. I'm in awe of him and his power. Because you know what? Honestly, sometimes we forget he's all powerful. When we're just looking at the floor and we're in defeat, we forget how powerful he is. We forget that he can pull us through. Not just pull us through, cause me to grow, cause me to overcome, cause me to conquer, cause me to get victory. He does all this. When I'm hungry, He'll give me what I need to sustain me. Whatever my need is, because I've turned to Him all of my life, He hasn't let me down. And if you have felt like He's let you down, then I can assure you that you haven't had that experience. Keep seeking Him. Keep